Scoping is one of the most important early steps in any investigation. It's where we take everything we learned from intake and triage and turn it into a clear, manageable plan. Without proper scoping, investigations drift, expand uncontrollably, or miss critical evidence. With proper scoping, the investigation becomes focused, efficient, and defensible. Scoping is really about defining the evidence universe, all the people, data, and timeframes that matter to the case. Once we know what's inside that universe, we can work methodically instead of guessing. Let's break down how scoping works. First, we identify custodians, the people who hold information. We start with the primary parties, the complainant, the respondent, and any neutral witnesses who directly observe the events. But we don't stop there. We also look at peripheral custodians, coworkers who sit nearby, supervisors who oversee the workflow, or people who handle relevant business processes. And then we identify records custodians, IT administrators, HR managers, payroll staff, or anyone responsible for preserving organizational data. In some cases, we even need external custodians like vendors, contractors, or former employees. Mapping out custodians early prevents surprises later. Next, we identify data sources. This is where we determine exactly what evidence repositories we need to examine. Documentary evidence might include personnel files, attendance records, memos, or policies. Digital evidence is often critical emails, chat logs, texts, social media posts, and metadata that shows who accessed or altered information. We also consider physical and environmental evidence like CCTV footage, access logs, damaged property, or items found during authorized searches. And in complex cases, we may need forensic artifacts such as system registries, browsing history, RAM captures, or slack space, where deleted files still reside. Scoping ensures we know where to look before we start digging. Then we establish time windows. This is essential for preventing scope creep. We define the specific date and time of the alleged incident, plus the events immediately before and after. If the case involves patterns, long-term harassment, or ongoing fraud, we widen the window to capture recurring behavior. But we also consider staleness and relevancy. Some information may be too old to rely on, and some jurisdictions impose timelines like 90-day completion guidelines. Setting clear chronological boundaries keeps the investigation focused. We also apply proportionality, the balancing act. The depth of the investigation must match the seriousness of the allegations. High-risk cases require deeper, more rigorous scoping. Minor grievances require a lighter touch. Privacy laws also require data minimization, collecting only what's necessary and avoiding rummaging through irrelevant personal information. And we weigh the cost and benefit of each evidence source. Some evidence may be technically available but too costly, too time-consuming, or too disruptive to justify. A good scope is neither too wide nor too narrow. Finally, we memorialize everything in a terms of reference document. This is the guardrail that keeps the investigation on track. It prevents detours into unrelated issues and protects the investigator from accusations of bias or overreach. If new, genuinely relevant information emerges, we don't just drift into it, we seek stakeholder approval to formally expand the scope. So scoping is much more than planning. It's the disciplined process of defining exactly what the investigation will examine, and just as importantly, what it will not. When scoping is done well, the investigation becomes clearer, faster, and far more defensible.